might be working then. You can see Osman on his camera? Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay. Thanks everyone for joining us. We're gonna hopefully just cover a couple of topics today. Gonna try to keep it shorter than last time. Today I have with me two people from the area. We're in Aleppo, the countryside of West Aleppo, and we have two people. One is with the FSA, the Free Syrian Army, with the group Liwa al-Muhajirin. His name is Mohammed Faris. This is him. Well, hello.
Hello.
There we go. And the second one we have is Abu Bakri with Hospital Ansar, which is another group here, which is which is a middle group, though it's a Islamic-based group. This is Abu Bakri. Salam. Any questions that anyone has, I will try to translate for them. Mohammed Faris speaks some English, so hopefully he can practice his English on here as well. But just before that, I just wanted to mention a couple points. First off, the website is now online, almujalla.com. So anyone who wants to go and look at it, I haven't been able to do too many updates to the website in the past week for the second point, which is that for the past few days, there's been a lot of conflict between all the different factions from the ISIS, the FSA, and the new groups that have joined together, the Islamic Front and the Jaish al-Mujahideen. So there's been many conflicts here, especially for us, but actually all over Syria and even in Iraq as well. So I'm sure some people have heard that there's been a lot of violence lately, and if there's any questions that are directly related to that, then we have at least two people here who can answer that probably better than I can. So so go ahead if you have any questions. Feel free to start asking them, and we'll get either Mohammed Faris or Abu Bakri to answer the questions. And whenever he's answering the question, the camera will be on him. Okay, and so basically, as for the website, I'm just going to speak about the website until I get some questions about the situation. The website basically right now has just a few stories on it that it just gives a general idea about how the website is going to be bringing the news in the future. It's not just news about the conflict, but news also about the people and their situation. So Raphael asked, who is in the conflict? I know civilians are being attacked, but by whom? So هذا هو يسأل يعني من الآن في هذا الصراع؟ من هم المجموعات في هذا الصراع؟ ويعلم أن مدنيون هم أيضا يقتلون، فمن يقتلونهم ومن هم في الصراع؟
هنالك بعض المندسين في الجيش الحر وأيضا في الدولة الإسلامية يقومون بقتل الأبرياء من المدنية ومن الأخوة المجاهدين من كلا الطرفين لظروف غامضة. قد تكون هذه الظروف لأسباب مادية شخصية أو لشيء آخر.
So he said that right now there are different groups from the Free Syrian Army and from the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria and Iraq and Sham that are have people within these groups who are basically criminals and doing criminal activities, and they're the ones who are perpetrating these crimes against the civilians, and that most people are aware that there are good in both of these groups, in all of these groups, and there are bad in all of these groups as well. So the people are attacking whoever is in their interest to attack. Some people have been attacking just any civilians, and some people have been attacking just other mujahideen fighters in Syria, just for their own personal gain or for whatever other reasons that are not necessarily clear. In fact, there was a statement that was issued by the leader of the Islamic Front or the Nusra Front, Jabhat Nusra, Abu Muhammad al-Jolani, and he basically said similar statements as well. That right now there's problems happening because people are either just against certain groups or they are working for their own interests, their own personal interests. So this is really why right now we're in a state where it's really difficult to trust anyone when they're bringing you news about what's happening other than what's in your local area, because everyone is hearing things from different sides and from different perspectives that really are sometimes quite opposite when you look at them as a whole. هل تريد أن تقول شيء عن الصراع وعن يعني من عمل هذه المشاكل أو أي شيء في ذلك؟
المشاكل في من الجيش الحر بعض الأشخاص الشبيحة اللي انتموا للجيش الحر. رأيت أنا بعض الأشخاص يعني أنا كنت حيادي يعني إنه أول مرة أرى بعض الأشخاص يحملون السلاح يقاتلون ضد دولة الإسلام والعراق والشام، وتصرفات بعض أمراء في الدولة الإسلامية كرهت الشعب، عمت الشعب منهم وصار يعني فتنة مصطنعة من الغرب ومن شبيحة النظام.
So from Abu Bakri's perspective is that there were some people within the Free Syrian Army who were basically from the what's called the Shabih. I think most people know the Shabih, meaning the supporters or the agents of the regime, the Assad regime, who started causing problems with the Islamic State in Iraq and Sham, but also due to the problems with many of the or some of the leaders from the Islamic State in Iraq and Sham, that they were being too harsh on the people that they were around of the Syrian people. So the Syrian people reacted in a supportive way to the Free Syrian Army when they gathered together to fight against the Islamic State in Iraq and Sham. So they basically, due to bad people on both sides of the issue, just like Muhammad Faris was saying, bad people on both sides of the issue, the problem continued. And so Raphael is asking, who do you trust? If you ask me, I can only trust the people who I know personally. Even we hear some stories even from people who I know will send us messages or send us or call us on the phone or whatever and tell us what's happening. But we have to find out, well, where did you hear that from? Because we can't even trust the person who's telling us unless it was an eyewitness account. So, and I'll ask the two guests as well. من تثق به؟ يعني في هذا الأخبار، يعني إذا أحد يجي بالأخبار عن ماذا يحدث، يعني من تثق به ومن يعني كيف تثق به؟
بالنسبة للأخبار، معظم المحطات التي نشاهدها على الأخبار الصناعية معظمها ليست صحيحة وكاذبة. نحن نعتمد على الأخبار التي نراها في أم أعيننا في المنطقة هنا. يعني معظم المحطات لا نستطيع أن نصدقها. هناك قناة حلب توداي تبث بعض الأشياء الصحيحة، يعني نستطيع أن نعتمد عليها أحيانا وليس كل الوقت في الأخبار. ومعظم المحطات كما قلت سيئة، حتى أصبحت تثير الخوف في نفوس كثيرون الإسلام.
Muhammad Faris said that the most of the stations, the news stations that broadcast the news here, are telling lies and not giving the full picture. He said that the only way that he trusts anyone is if they saw something with their own eyes and he trusts them as an individual, and or if he himself saw it with his own eyes, then he will trust that report. For example, we've heard that a certain town, for example, a few kilometers away was attacked and many people were killed and so forth. So we thought this was the case, and we knew people in this town. We were fearful for them and so forth. But then we found out that wasn't true. That there was a skirmish, but there was not that many injuries or deaths. So people exaggerate and say things. He also said that there is a station like called Halab Today, Halab Al-Yom, or Aleppo Today, that basically has some of what they're saying is true, but some of what they're saying is not true. So you really have to only go by what you have seen yourself, or from people who you can trust, like individuals that you can trust. There's really no media organization that's trustworthy. And if I might just add as well that even if we're watching like Al Arabiya or Al Jazeera or these different, I haven't even paid attention to the American media, so I don't know what's going on in the American media. But just seeing what is being said in Al Jazeera and Al Arabiya, it's a completely different story than what we're hearing here. So it's kind of it's strange, to say the least. That there's no way we can actually verify. We don't know where they're getting their information from, or if they're just inventing it or whatever. So like I said, I haven't heard what the American media is saying right now about what's going on. In fact, I think I flipped to CNN a couple of times, and they weren't talking about the situation here. So I went to where they were talking about the situation. As for, he's asking, are there only Syrians living or fighting in the area you are in, or do you see foreigners where you are as well? I'll ask Abu Bakri to answer this question, and then I'll give my input as well. هو يسأل هل هنا في هذه المنطقة يوجد سوريون محليون فقط هم يعيشون هنا ويقاتلون هنا، أو هل يوجد أجانب هنا أيضا؟
نعم، يوجد أجانب وسوريون، يعني نحن نقاتل أكثر من إخوة. يعني
he's saying that there are both. There's you'll find both here, and they fight alongside each other. They don't it's not no one is simply just fighting one against the other. Some people are trying to give that image across, that it's a war between the people who are Syrian locals and foreigners. And actually, the reality is that in all of the groups that are fighting, you'll find Syrian locals and you'll find foreigners. So you'll find it on the Free Syrian Army side, and you'll find it on the Islamic State side. You'll find in the Islamic State, a lot of people give the impression that it's just foreigners who join the Islamic State, but that's not the case. It's there's many locals who are in the Islamic State as well. He's asking what nationalities, and if we see Iranians. هو يسأل أي الجانب من أي دول، وهل يوجد هنا أي إيرانيون
مع النظام أم مع
في هذه المنطقة؟
لا، من جميع دول العالم الحمد لله يوجد أشخاص، يعني من جميع الدول، مثل فرنسا، من بلاد القوقاز، أمريكا، ألمانيا، تونس، المغرب، مصر، جميع الدول العربية.
لكن إيران
لا يوجد.
Saying that as far as this area is concerned, the main or the people who are here, of the foreigners, you'll find foreigners from all over the world. He says there are people from France and from the Caucasus and from America and from Germany and from Egypt and Morocco and Tunis Tunisia, and from all over the world. But as far as Iranians, there's none here. Now, as he did start, he asked if I meant the regime, because it's known that with the regime, of course, I think it's well known that there are Iranians working with the regime and coming to support the regime. But in this specific area, where there is no regime in this specific area, then no. There is a fight going on about 2 or 3 cities from here, 2 or 3 towns from here against the regime. But as far as this specific area where we're in right now, then no. Asking if there's any American connection, I guess, Cynthia, you're an American because you're asking, is there any? How are we viewed? Is our government considered an ally? هل يعتبرون أمريكا لها دور في هذه المشاكل؟ وهل يرى الشعب السوري هنا يعني أن أمريكا عدو أو أمريكا ولي أو كيف؟
بالنسبة لأمريكا في المنطقة هنا، نعتبر ككل المقاتلين والمجاهدين الموجودين هنا، نعتبر أمريكا عدو وليست صديقة. لماذا؟ لأنها دائما تدس بيننا من يثير الفتن بين كلا الطرفين، أي أقصد بين الجيش الحر والدولة الإسلامية وأيضا عصبة الأنصار، تثير الفتن بين جميع المجاهدين ضد النظام الطاغي.
Muhammad Faris said that the people in this area, referring to the fighters in this area, are the fighters in this area consider America to be an enemy and not to be a friend, because of the way that they are helping, as they see it here, always causing problems between the different groups and perpetuating these problems by helping, even in like the media sense, helping portray the truth of what's going on. Rather, they choose sides and they put these sides against one another. So putting the FSA, the Free Syrian Army, against Islamic State, and then bringing all these other groups against different groups. Whereas the many of the people, especially right before this current conflict in this area happened, all of the groups, even the Free Syrian Army and the Islamic State, were working together, and they didn't have these problems. But after the problems occurred, all the trust that was between these groups seems to have been lost. And a lot of people believe, whether this belief is based upon evidence or not, but they have this belief that America must have a hand in this, if not simply a silent approval of what's going on, rather than trying to solve the problems. So, ومرة نفس الكلام كما قال محمد فارس عن أمريكا ومدى دور أمريكا في هذه الأحداث.
مثلا نفسه
هل لأمريكا دور في هذه الأحداث؟
نعم، شيء أكيد. يعني كل شيء فتنة عم تصير، وهذه من أمريكا الغرب إجماليا، يعني الغرب وأمريكا كله صعبين أنه في بداية الأحداث كنا خلافنا مع النظام لا يوجد سلاح أبدا. في هذه الأحداث أصبحوا شاحنات الأسلحة تأتي إلى الجيش الحر، شيء رهيب. يعني حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل.
When he's saying that when these conflicts started, not these specific conflicts, but before, when the revolution started, there was a vocal support, as they understood it, a vocal support from America. And even they started seeing many weapons coming to certain groups, but not coming to other groups. And so they saw that there was clearly favoritism going on. In this case, there's he's saying that he believes that America clearly has a role in this, and thinks that they're not being fair. Mohammed Faris wants to add on to this.
كما قال الأخ أبو بكر، أمريكا في بداية الأمر كانت عفوا صديقة للشعب السوري وفي بداية الثورة السورية، وعندما حصلت على ما تريد وهو معروف الكيماوي، عندما أخرج من سوريا أصبحت عدونا، بل ليست عدو، العدو اللدود أيضا. أصبحت تساير النظام وتقوم بدعمه، ومن المعروف تستطيع في يوم واحد أن تسقط نظام بشار الأسد وتنهي الوضع في سوريا ويعيش الشعب السوري بسلام. لكن هي تريد الفتنة ضد الإسلام وليس ضد الشعب السوري فقط، تريد ضد الإسلام بشكل عام وبكل أنحاء العالم.
So Muhammad said that verifying what Abu Bakr was saying, that at the beginning of the revolution, the Americans were very supportive of what was happening, the revolution, and they were vocally against the regime, and everything seemed like America was somebody to be trusted. Then after the chemical weapon attacks and the other atrocities committed by the Syrian regime, by the Assad regime, the people recognized that America was actually not a friend and started to withdrew itself. America withdrew itself from their previous support, and that the people here know that America is able, in probably one day, to cause Bashar al-Assad's regime to not just fall, but to at least cease the use of chemical weapons, to destroy all of their air support and so on and so forth, basically to help the Syrian people out. Yet they see that they're not doing this, and they're going back on what they originally saw or what they originally understood. And Muhammad said that they recognize this. Many of the Syrians recognize this as not simply just being against the Syrian people, but being against Islam, being against the religion of Islam, because many of the people, if the majority of the people, are Muslims here, and they see themselves as fighting not just simply for the borders of their own country, not simply for their state, their Syrian state, but for their religion as well, to be able to practice their religion freely and so forth. Because if we remember that for 40 years, if not longer, even before Assad's rule, the Assad family rule, there was there was oppression and so forth against the people from practicing their religion as they saw fit. And especially during the Assad regime, the people were oppressed greatly. So now the people are able to practice as they please, and they see that the only reason America would not support them in this is because of their active war against Islam. So let me now scroll down and see what some other questions were. Does anybody have a specific question that can be summarized? Because this is I'm seeing lots of commentary. I would like to get some possible questions if possible. Because hold on. هل يوجد معونات ومساعدات من برا الآن؟
يوجد معونات ولكن بشكل قليل جدا، تأتي من تركيا فقط، ولا يوجد دولة أخرى ترسل معونات، فقط من تركيا، وبشكل قليل جدا. يعني كل شهرين أو أكثر تأتي معونة، وهناك كثير من الناس لا يستطيعون أن يأخذوا من المعونة، فقط يعني نصف الشعب أقل.
He's saying that right now the only aid that is coming from Turkey, and that they don't know of any other countries in this. And again, we're talking about this region. We can only speak about the region that we're in. In this region, they only receive some aid from coming from Turkey, and that in a very small amount, though. For example, he said every two months or even longer, they'll receive some aid, and only half, or if not less than half, of the people are actually able to benefit from this aid. So it's really not enough. The Max is asking the question. There's a lot of talk around Al Qaeda being in the country. Can you speak about that? So the question is Al Qaeda in Syria? هل يوجد تنظيم القاعدة داخل سوريا؟
نعم، يوجد تنظيم قاعدة، لكن كل أغلبهم يعني ناس جيدين ومعاملة حسنة مع جميع الأشخاص والبشر. يعني ليس ما كنا نعرف في القديم تنظيم القاعدة قتل ذبح إرهاب، لكن رأينا عكس ذلك تمام، وناس طيبون جيدين يعني.
وأنت توافق هذا؟
نعم، يوجد تنظيم قاعدة، لكن من أطيب الناس، وهم يقاتلون من أجل الإسلام فقط، بدون أي شكل من أشكال الإرهاب، فقط يريدون السلام ويريدون على الإسلام أن ينتشر فقط.
إسلام حقيقي.
Both of our guests are saying that yes, there's Al Qaeda here, but as Abu Bakr mentioned, they understood Al Qaeda to be a bloodthirsty organization and so much killing and so on and so forth. But what they both said is that they found that the opposite to be true, that they're some of the best people that they've met, and they only fight for Islam and for spreading Islam in the country, and for teaching the people about Islam, and that they see that the image that was given to Al Qaeda was not the correct image. And this is coming. This might come as a surprise to many people because you have someone even from the Free Syrian Army saying this. But this is actually, if you ask most people in this area, they'll say the same thing. That it's not as the media always portrays it to be. Let me ask. I'll ask both of these questions if I can. لو يعني ماذا تحتاج أمريكا أن تفعل كي حتى تثق بها، حتى هي تكون في أعينكم صديقة؟
عندما نسترجع بيت المقدس هكذا تكون أمريكا صديق لنا، عندما ترفع الظلم عن البشر وهذا، عندما تعمل لا تحارب الإسلام، أين يوجد إقامة دولة إسلامية تكون هي أشد الأعداء لإقامة حد من حدود الله سبحانه وتعالى. هي دائما حرب ضد الإسلام، ضد إقامة دولة إسلامية حقيقية.
According to Abu Bakr, he's saying that the only way that America can be seen as a friend is after Jerusalem is returned to the people, to the Muslim people. And he's saying this, and he added on to this, that wherever there's an Islamic State, not speaking about the group called the Islamic State, but in an Islamic State, whenever an Islamic State is trying to be set up or implemented, that they always find that America is the biggest enemy to this and always tries to stop this. Whereas this is not, this is not allowing the people to do what they want, because many of the people do want an Islamic State. I'll post the same question to Mohammed Faris. وفي رأيك كيف تكون أمريكا صديقة لله؟
تكون صديقة عندما تتوقف عن محاربة الدين الإسلامي وعن قتل المجاهدين الإسلام بكافة أنحاء العالم. نحن نريد الإسلام أن ينتشر فقط، لا نريد سفك الدماء في كل أنحاء العالم.
And basically, Muhammad said the same thing, that the only way that America can be seen as a friend is when they stop fighting against the Mujahideen all over the world, and when they start allowing Islam to spread as Islam is as the Muslims are trying to spread it. So Edward asks, what type of government do you want after the fall of Assad? I think it's obvious the answer, but I'll still post the question. في أي نوع من الحكومة تريد بعد سقوط الأسد؟
نحن نريد إن شاء الله بعد سقوط نظام الطاغية نريد خلافة إسلامية صحيحة فقط. لا نريد لا نظام دستوري، لا نريد نظام ولا قانون فرنسي ولا إنجليزي ولا أمريكي، فقط نريد خلافة إسلامية صحيحة بإذن الله سوف تحصل بإذن الله.
ونفس السؤال أي
تطبيق حكم الله على الأرض، إقامة دولة إسلامية راشدة يحكمها إنسان راشد وتقام خلافة إسلامية إن شاء الله.
Inshallah, Muhammad said that he wants the establishment of an Islamic Khilafah, a caliphate, according to the correct understanding of Islam. And he said that he does not want a secular government or a constitutional government or a government based upon the laws of France or the laws of America or anything other than just an Islamic government. And Abu Bakr says the same thing, that he wants the implementation of the laws of Islam, the implementation of the rule of Allah, the rule of God, as it is according to Islam. Let me see what else. Yes, Mary. One is FSA, the one who spoke first. طيب هذه المرأة تسأل يعني ما العلاقة، أنت ذكرت بيت المقدس، فما العلاقة بين بيت المقدس أو يروشلم وسوريا؟ ما العلاقة؟
أن الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم قال مثل المؤمنين في توادهم وتراحمهم كمثل الجسد الواحد إذا اشتكى منه عضو تداعى له سائر الجسد السهر والحمى. نحن إذا يصيب شخص في أمريكا كأنه أصيب أخي في بلاد الشام أو في فلسطين أو في أي مكان في العالم، نحن كجسد واحد الإسلام.
Abu Bakr mentioned the statement or the saying of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that the ummah of Muslims is like a single body. That when one part of the body aches or hurts, then it's felt by the rest of the body. So he said, if a person has a brother who's living in America or in another place, and he finds out that his brother is being hurt or he was injured, then he feels bad for his brother and he wants to help his brother. So the same is the case for as Abu Bakr said, that the nation of Muslims is that Muslims worldwide long for everyone to have the same times of ease and to recover from all the times of hardship as one body would like to recover completely. Yes, Mary, you might find it surprising, but there are groups in the FSA that want a khilafah, that want a caliphate. I want to know what you need to practice around the world to help you who are fighting for freedom. Nice to answer. I'll ask Domingo's question, but perhaps while I'm asking the question, you could clarify what you mean by the ones who are in the country trying to hijack the revolution. But ماذا تريد من النشيطين يعني خارج سوريا أن يفعلوا كي يساعدوكم في الثورة؟
نريد من الناشطون الذين يعيشون خارج سوريا أن يوصلوا الأخبار كما هي، وأن يتحدثوا دائما باسم الشعب العربي، باسم الشعب العربي السوري الحر. نعم، ونريد أيضا أن ألا يأخذوا بالمحطات المغرضة التي نراها كل يوم وتتحدث كما يحلو.
He's saying that he wants the Syrian, the activists all over the world to transmit the truth. You know, as when it comes to them, and they know it's the truth. To give the truth, the true image of Syria, not the image that's just given on the different stations, different news stations that don't give the truth, that don't give the real picture, and don't. He's saying don't even follow these these news reports because they're lies. سؤال: هل يريد الشعب السوري، هل أنتم تريدون دولة مثل دولة الطالبان؟ يعني كما يصورون الناس، يعني دولة الطالبان كانت متشددة وكذا على أهل الناس، يعني كيف تريد الدولة؟
نعم، نريد كما دولة طالبان، يعني أفغانستان تماما بداية أفغانستان. نريد أن يكون أميرنا هو أيمن الظواهري رحمه الله.
According to Abu Bakr, he does want a state like the state of the Taliban. He sees it as being an Islamic state, and that would be better for him than what they have now. And he wouldn't mind having Ayman al-Zawahiri as the leader of that state. سؤال نفس السؤال.
نعم، نريد أيمن ظواهري قائدنا جميعا.
صح. And even our friend here from the Free Syrian Army says he has no problem with even Ayman al-Zawahiri being with the leadership, the role of leader. And سؤال: أنت قلت أنت تريد خلافة إسلامية، هل هذا قول منتشر عند الجيشور؟ يعني الناس في الجيشور كثير منهم يريدون هذا، أو هذا رأيك شخصي فقط؟
لا، الجيش الحر إن شاء الله جميعهم يريدون الإسلام وحكم إسلامي إن شاء الله جميعهم.
I just asked him if his statement that he said he wants an Islamic caliphate to be the future government, if this is just his personal opinion or if this is an opinion that is shared by many people in the Free Syrian Army. And he said no. He said all of the people that at least he speaks with, that he knows in the Free Syrian Army, want this. That they want an Islam to be spread throughout the world and to start here. سؤال: هل تؤمنون بحقوق النساء للتربية وهذه الأشياء تحت الخلافة؟
نعم، حق النساء يعني موجود وعندنا محفوظة بكل شيء يعني.
He says yes, so all of the rights of women should exist, and of course they should receive education and so forth. These are rights that are protected by Islam. Cynthia, I'm not going to speak about my personal story because we were supposed to be interviewing the guests here, but at another time I have no problem speaking about it. طيب السؤال, he's asking about the Kurds and the Christians and the Druze and the Alawis. All of these are Syrians. How can they be in an Islamic state? في يوجد هنا أكراد ونصارى ودروز ونصيرية وكل ذلك، كلهم سوريون، فكيف يطبق عليهم شرع الإسلام وليس يعني شيء ديمقراطية وكذا؟
لا مشكلة يعني، ولو أن تعددت الطوائف بين الإسلام لا يوجد مشكلة، ولكن كل طائفة يعني يجب أن يكون لها يعني حدود، يعني يجب ألا تتخطى هذه الحدود وتعيش كما نعيش، وإن شاء الله.
Muhammad Farah says that there's no problem with having all of these different groups and so forth. That there's the only difference would be that there'd be a line, just as there's already lines that the Assad regime set up that people are not allowed to cross. There'll be different lines that people are not allowed to cross. So as long as the people do not cross these lines, then they'll be welcome to live here and not face any type of ill treatment under an Islamic state. I think Edward, you ask, will they ban music and technology, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, etc. I think we might be getting a little far away from the point, as these men who are with me. They're fighters. I think that they'd agree that they're not scholars and they're not politicians and so forth. So I don't think they're getting too far into the ins and outs of exactly how the state would function. And you might find different opinions amongst many of the people here, especially on these different topics. Okay, so. And again, Cynthia, I think that maybe I can ask the question if you really want me to, but to go into the details and everything, I think might prolong this quite a bit. And I promised Max that we wouldn't go over an hour and a half. and سؤال هل يوجد مقاتلات أيضا أو يعني من النساء أو فقط من الرجال؟
أنا لا أعلم بيننا لا يوجد قتال نساء، ولكن بين الجيش الحر وجدنا في الإعلام أنه يوجد نساء بين الجيش الحر. عندنا لا يوجد، لا أعلم.
Abu Bakr says that as for women fighting himself, he does not know of any women who fight, though just from the press, the media, he's seen that in the Free Syrian Army there are some women who fight. نفس السؤال فيه
لا يوجد، ولكن يوجد هناك بعض النساء يعملون في مجال الإعلام فقط. أصلا لا نسمح بنزول النساء لكي يجاهدوا.
Similar, Muhammad Faris said that he doesn't know of any women who actually are fighting. He does know that some women who participate in media work and so forth. But as far as going down to the battlefields and going down to the streets to fight, he's not aware of any of them who do this. هل أخذ الجيش الحر أي دبابات من النظام يعني وهم يشغلونها؟
نعم، استطاع الجيش الحر أن يسيطر على بعض من الأسلحة الثقيلة مثل الدبابات والبي ويستخدمونها الآن ضد النظام. والحمد لله الجيش الحر بشكل دائم يقوى أكثر فأكثر، وإن شاء الله سوف نستطيع أن ننتصر على الطاولة.
Muhammad Faris from the FSA said that yes, they are able to capture some of the tanks and other heavy weapons, and they do use them against the regime. And he asks God to help them defeat the tyrant regime using these weapons. Mary, you ask why is Abu Bakr not in an Islamic group instead of the FSA? Actually, I think first off, Abu Bakr is in an Islamic group. He is in an Islamic group. He's in what's called Usbat al-Ansar, whereas Muhammad Faris is the one who's in the FSA. And but again, both of the هل جمهور الجيش الحر يؤيدون الديمقراطية أو يؤيدون الخلافة؟ أوكي.
جمهور الجيش الحر إسلام إن شاء الله. نحن نؤيد الخلافة إن شاء الله في بلدنا فقط، وليست الديمقراطية، وإن شاء الله سوف تنتشر الخلافة.
He said that the majority of the Free Syrian Army support the idea of the Khilafah and not the ideology of democracy, and he hopes that this will spread. The ideology of the Khilafah will spread. السؤال ممكن نتكلم قليلا عن جرحى وقتلى من المدنيين وأي مجموعات تقتل المدنيين وتستهدفهم وكذا أو هل هو فقط أسد والنظام؟
بالنسبه للفتنه اللي صارت بين الجيش الحر والتنظيم الدولي، ما في قتل المدنيين ابدا الا في حال اذا في الخطا. اخبار كله كذب ونفاق، كله قنوات اعلام كلها كاذبه. على سبيل المثال امبارح قالوا قتل 15 شخص مفرق وبيس، لم يجرح الحمد لله ولا شخص واحد، كله قنوات كذب ونفاق، قنوات اعلام.
Abu Bakr says that regarding the killing of civilians, that even during this current time, there's this conflict between the Free Syrian Army and the Islamic State in Iraq and Sham. Even during this time, no one is killing civilians. Even though we hear reports of this all the time, none of these groups are, at least in this area, are killing civilians. Just near where we are, then there's a town named called Babis, and there's a checkpoint there. And yesterday we heard the news that 15 civilians who were just walking by were killed at this checkpoint. And today Abu Bakr found out that not even a single person was even injured in this. But this is the work of the media, that just lies and gives off the impression that things are worse than they really are, in order to instigate people to pursue more violence and to actually perpetrate the killing of civilians and other people from these different groups and people from the groups. Dominga, the Yarmouk camp in Syria, I believe, is in Damascus. Yarmouk في دمشق. We're near Aleppo, so we really don't have any connection to Damascus or the surrounding the area surrounding Damascus. I'm sorry, Max. Actually, he did also say that the only time that civilians are killed is through mistakes that are made by people. That as far as the overwhelming number of civilians who are killed, I mean, like even in the past few days, there's been airstrikes here. There's airstrikes from the Assad regime, on a daily basis all over the country, especially in areas where there's an airport and so forth nearby that has not yet been taken by the rebels. So this number, 100,000 civilians have died. So I don't think anybody can verify the exact number, but there's no doubt that the majority would be coming from such airstrikes and so forth. About the disunity and what is the cause of disunity. يوجد هنا تفرق كثير، مجموعات كثيرة، فما هو سبب التفرق؟ ويعني لماذا هذا التفرق؟ لماذا هذا الافتراق؟ مجموعات جهادية، ولا هناك دولة وهناك جبهة الإسلامية وكذا وكذا.
لا، جميع هنا الجبهات التي تعمل ضد النظام جميعها أما جيش حر أو دولة إسلامية، دولة العراق والشام فقط. الجبهة الإسلامية تعمل لصالح الجيش الحر، جبهة النصرة أيضا تعمل لصالح الجيش الحر، وإن شاء الله كلها هدفها واحد، فقط إسقاط النظام.
So Mohammed Faris says that all of these different groups, that other than the conflicts that come up, like this conflict that they're having now, the conflicts that other than when they have these conflicts, there's different groups, they work together to fight against the regime. This is his perspective, that even you'll have the groups like the Nusra Front fighting alongside the FSA against the regime, and the same you'll have some FSA groups, and I know some FSA groups who fight alongside the Islamic State in Iraq and Sham against the regime. تريد تعلق على ذلك؟
نحن كنا في القتال جميع الفصائل تقاتل يعني في خندق واحد وفي صف واحد وفي مكان واحد، ولكن الفتنة اللي صارت بين دولة الإسلام والجيش الحر وإن شاء الله يعني سوف تحل قريبا إن شاء الله، ولكن ما في تفرق. هلا في كل دولة في العالم يوجد مثلا فرقة رابعة ثالثة خامسة سادسة، كذلك الأسماء مثلا جيش المجاهدين، جيش جبهة النصرة، دولة الإسلام، إن شاء الله كلهم واحد يعني ما في مشكلة.
Saying that other than this current conflict that he hopes will be ended soon, that all of the different groups they all fight against the regime, but there's bound to be divisions and so forth, just like you find anywhere else in the world. That people will have their differences, but in the end of the day, they're all fighting against one enemy, and they keep that. Again, Edward, about Damascus. There's, I could bring the opinions of our guests about it, but they don't go to Damascus. They're stationed here and they're living here, so it would only be hearsay, really. And we're trying just to keep this as authentic as possible. So about what's going on in the capital, hopefully one day, if I am able to get somebody who's from there to come here and speak, then hopefully that will be a possibility. As far as are most foreigners there suspected of being spies by the Syrians. الشعب السوري يلقي تهمة أو النظر أو الظن على الأجانب أنهم جواسيس من الغرب ومن دول أخرى.
الجيش السوري لا
الشعب السوري يعني السوريون ينظرون إلى الأجانب بشكل يعني يظنون هذا ممكن قد يكون جاسوسا أو كذا.
لا ننظر بشكل عام ككل الشعب الغربي أو الشعب الأجنبي أنه جاسوس، لا، هناك الكثيرون من المجاهدون من الغرب والأجانب يعملون لصالح الدولة الإسلامية والجيش الحر العالمي.
So he said no. He doesn't. He says in general, people do not suspect foreigners as being spies for any other governments. As long as they see that they are, whether it's joining these groups or fighting against the regime or speaking out against the regime and so forth. ولكن تريد تعلق على ذلك صح؟
بالنسبة للمجاهدين في بعض الأشخاص يشككون في الإخوة المهاجرين، ولكن ليس أغلب الشعب السوري يحب الإخوة المهاجرين المجاهدين في سبيل الله، وهذا يعني أغلبهم محبوبين كثيرا من قبل الشعب السوري.
Abu Bakr says that there are some people who will cast doubts about the foreigners who come. But he said in general, similar to what Muhammad has said, in general, the muhajirin, the immigrants, for the people who come from other countries to come here to fight against the regime. He said most of the Syrian people love the muhajirin and are not against them and do not consider them to be spies or have ill intentions. Edward, you're asking me if I've met Westerners here. I have, and I am a Westerner. But there are people from all over. As we mentioned earlier on in the discussion, there are people from all over Europe and Asia, all over the world who have come here to either participate or to help or so forth. And الرجل أن النظام الأسدي، النظام الأسد ومؤيدونه يقولون أن 90% من الثوار غير سوريين. هل هذا صحيح؟
العكس. لا، ليس 90%، العكس تماما. يعني ما في 5 أو 10% غير سوريين يعني بالنسبة للمجاهدين، ولكن 90% من الشعب السوري. 5 أو 10 مجاهدين.
Abu Bakr says, is the Edward asking about the question about that what they say that the rebels are 90% non-Syrian. Abu Bakr says this is the opposite of the case. He said 90% are Syrian, and you might find 5 to 10% as being muhajirin coming from other countries. And I think this is about what I have also seen myself from. There are. It's kind of like when you see if you see a group of 100 people and then they're all wearing red shirts and then you see 3 people wearing white shirts, they stand out. So you might want to say, oh, there's so many here, but in reality, there's not that many. So you might see them. They dress differently, they look differently, but they're the minority compared to the other groups or the groups that contain mostly Syrians. So, are there any other questions? Leave me. So I think actually it might be time for the. What's your question, Ida? Okay, this is a good question. I think this is one that Max wanted me to cover eventually, and I might end on this as well because I think it's time for our guests to pray, and they want to move on in just a second. But I'll try to get the question covered. هل يوجد حل أو طريق إلى السلام يعني بدون قتال أو وقف القتال يعني وما هو الطريق لوقف القتال؟ أسأل أبو بكر أولا.
إن شاء الله، لأن في الإخوة مثلا في كثير من جبهة النصرة وأحرار الشام وجبهة النصرة يحاولون الإصلاح وهذا، وإن شاء الله سبحانه وتعالى بس أذن الله سبحانه وتعالى فورا يقوم بالقتال، ولكن الآن صعب.
Abu Bakr says that right now it's difficult for us to consider that this war or this conflict will end, referring to the revolution as a whole, that this will end without fighting. That with all of these different groups, there needs to be a fight. Actually, he's referring to this current conflict. Actually, he's saying that right now it seems that it's really difficult for them to come together right now due to so many problems, with communication and so forth. Just talking about the current conflict now, which we all hope will end soon, because we haven't had electricity other than what we have on the generator for over a week. We haven't had been able to move from town to town, which is a normal thing that we're always doing just to get food and to go do different things. But لكن بالنسبة للحرب يعني بشكل عام
جيش النظام
هل يوجد طريق لوقف القتال السلام وكيف؟
لا يوجد طريق سوى الحرب، وإن شاء الله يعني نحن لا نقف قتال حتى تكون دولة إسلامية، يعني سواء سقط بشار أم لم يسقط بشار الأسد نحن لا نقف حرب حتى تكون دولة إسلامية خلافة إسلامية راشدة.
Okay, so Abu Bakr said that regarding fighting against the regime, he does not see any way of it being resolved peacefully, and he does not see that anything other than war is the way to go forward, and that that he'll continue fighting, and the the people who believe as he does will continue fighting until the establishment of an actual Islamic state, an actual caliphate is established, whether or not that is after or before the fall of Assad and his regime. ونفس السؤال، هل يوجد طريق لوقف القتال ضد النظام؟
لا يوجد. نحن نريد بالمرتبة الأولى نريد إسقاط النظام، نظام الطاغية، النظام المستبد أولا. فقط نريد هذا الموضوع أن ينتهي. نريد أن ننهي النظام الطاغية، ونريد شو اسمه خلافة دينية إسلامية وكل ما تعنيه الكلمة.
Similarly, Muhammad said that this needs to be there needs to be an end to this regime, and the only way to end this regime is through fighting, through war, and then after that he wants to have to move forward with a caliphate. And yes, Jimmy, as we were saying earlier, as we spoke about this earlier, he even though he's with the FSA, and the general image that is given off at the FSA is that they are anti an Islamic state and so forth. You'll actually find that many people in the FSA, when you speak to them and you actually ask them, I'm not talking about necessarily even specific individuals, but in a general sense, when you ask the people, the fighters on the ground who go to battle and fight, if you notice even in their videos when they're fighting, they're saying they're using the phrases, the Islamic phrases like Allahu Akbar and La ilaha illallah and so forth. They have an Islamic background, and they want to have an Islamic foreground as well. So they many of them, even you'll find some FSA groups within the FSA that are called, for example, the supporters of the Khilafah, the supporters of the Caliphate. Even though they're in the FSA, they even have names like this in their groups. So as it was mentioned earlier, that regarding the stance that these two men have with America and the West and so forth, they understand that America, as far as America is concerned, they do not want a Islamic state or caliphate to be established, and they understand this. And regarding Mary, I'm going to ask the guests again, especially the guest in the FSA, what you just said, that the Syrians won't support a caliphate. تقول واحدة أن الشعب السوري لن يقبل خلافة إسلامية، لن يقبل خلافة إسلامية. هل ترى هذا يعني صحيح؟ الشعب يريدون الخلافة أو لا؟
لا، الشعب السوري يريد الخلافة طبعا. الشعب السوري لقد دعانا كثيرا من نظام الطاغية، النظام الأسدي. نحن نريد الخلافة لكي نعيش بسلام إن شاء الله.
Saying that the Syrian people do want a caliphate, they do want a khilafah, and that they've been tired of having this dictator and this regime for so long, that they only want to have peace, and the way that they find peace is through Islam, and the government of Islam is the caliphate. So this is the way that is being spoken about amongst the Syrian people. I think I'm going to let it wrap up now. If anybody has more questions, maybe we can go. If you go to our Facebook page and post some comments, we can maybe try to answer them. Hopefully, Max and I have been discussing setting up a weekly show or weekly conversation on Vonvo, that perhaps we can maybe even do this even sooner than next week. We can do it maybe in the next day or two, and I can try to bring some others as well just to get some variety so that you know that this is not just two people's opinions, but maybe it's even more, or maybe you'll find out that other people have completely different understandings. So hopefully we will send out an event, and I hope everybody will join us. Thank you so much, and have a great morning or evening wherever you are. And just for Max's, just asked us to reintroduce the speakers. I had with me Muhammad Faris from the FSA, from a group, Liwa al-Muhajirin, and I had as well Abu Bakri from Hospital Ansar, another group here, and they are both residents of an area in West Aleppo, the countryside of West Aleppo. يشكرونك لك.
شكرا جزيلا. السلام عليكم.
يشكرون لك. السلام عليكم. Okay, thank you so much, and have a good night or morning. عليكم السلام. Okay.
Finished?
All finished.